Hi there, folks. Simmon here. Welcome back to the 2023 Trans-AtlanTak Tournament. This is Old World versus New World. In this match, we're going to see MehrGills2 versus Klimace. MehrGills playing for the New World, Klimace playing for Old World here. And this is going to be a really solid matchup. Both players, very similar skill level, I would say. Strongly in that upper intermediate tier. They are the 6th seed match, though again, seeding is a little funky because of how we were able to manipulate those seeding due to the captains. But this is nonetheless going to be a solid match, and also the current scoring is 6 points to New World, 3 points to Old World. So New World only needs one more win to take this whole tournament. And so MehrGills2 could win the entire tournament right now. So that is exciting. It puts a little pressure on him. And this is played just like all the other games in this tournament, a 6x6 board with 15 minutes on the clock and a 15-second increment, meaning 15 seconds gets added to your time after every turn. And in addition to that, we are playing with 15 minutes added to your time at move 35. So if the game does run long, gives you a little extra time to play in that end game. And we are playing with 2 Klimace, meaning that 2 gets added to Black's flat count score if the game does not end in a road. So without any further ado, let's jump right in to this one-game match between MehrGills and Klimace. All right, we see the A6 played and then F1 for the opposite corners, going straight into that Knight's opening for Klimace. Very, very traditional sort of opening here for White. Black dropping that early capstone. This is a really solid placement, I'd say, for that capstone. This follows, I think, a lot of what the top tier players are playing right now. This is where it sort of starts to deviate. Interesting play with the C2, though. I think that was a bit different. And then, of course, the C5, B5 there, that was different. But they are playing lightning quick here right at the beginning, try to get that extra time boost from that increment, playing these early moves as quick as they can so they can save up that time for later. Black sort of half committing towards that horizontal. Does still have momentum in the vertical direction, I think. No, does not. White has the vertical momentum. Black likely wants to play over at B4 or A5 and does decide to play at that B4. Helps cut off White from making that vertical, but also works towards their own horizontal here. White does have a lot of material next to Black's horizontal, whereas White's also starting to build for this horizontal down below on the 2 and 1 file, and Black has no material near that, so that is going to be a bit of a tricky position to be in here. We'll need to be aware of that and not let that get away from him, basically. Black taking his time, now down below that 15-minute mark. Back up, okay. Back up above 15 minutes. Taking on average about 15 seconds per turn, because that is the increment here. Does play over at A4 to go for that horizontal line. White plays the capstone, ready to come up onto B4. Now, this is an interesting position for a couple reasons, but one of them is that Black could isolate White's capstone here by capturing up onto B5. Capturing up onto B5 would work towards their horizontal, would also help isolate the capstone, and you would win the capture war on B5 because you've got C5 there. Maybe not worth the risk. And it seems to be that Black thinks that's the case. Black does play at C3, ready to come up onto C4 to make that tack threat. Likely going to want to play F4 instead of coming up with the capture first. Get that anchor point in. Does play at F4. This is now the first tack threat of the game for Black. making that horizontal threat, can either capture up or down with onto c4. So c3 plus or c5 minus, either one is a road. So white's going to have to cut that off, potentially with c4 left, which c4 left would be making a vertical tack threat for white. May decide to come up with a capstone instead just to make it a little bit stronger, but I don't expect that to be the case. You have a few other options. Oh, Klimace was disconnected, so that's why it took him so long. Decided to come up with the capstone. Black likely going to be playing here at b3, filling in just to keep white from making that connection and making that tack threat right away. And also it works for their own horizontal yet again. I'm not sure. The other option would be to drop a wall at b3, but I'm not sure how effective that's going to be. Decides to go for the flat. Good play. White drops the flat at a3, expecting that. Can come over for the tack threat. Black could drop a d3 flat for the tack threat as well, but the same threat that white wants to make with the a3 right does the exact same thing. It still makes that tack threat, so it still works for him. So d3 might not be the best move, but it does put more material on the board and force a move out of white. Granted, the forced move may not be that bad for white, so it's not exactly a great decision there to force that move. Okay, black instead drops up at a5, interestingly. Interesting move. Now, this is tricky here, because black wants to go for this threat up at the top for the horizontal, and they want to be able to cut off white. Trying to make it so, I think they're trying to set it up in such a way that if white captures up with their capstone onto b5, that it leaves them open for a road. But I'm not sure how you could do that without placing it d3 first. And placing it d3 is another tack threat that white would have to respond to. I'm not sure if that works. White instead decides to play over at e2. I think that's a really smart play here. This is getting more and more dangerous for black, because white is coming close to making a threat down at the bottom where black has very little material. That c3 is their main piece that they have to counteract what white is going for down there, and that may not be enough. That may not be enough. It is a risky, risky situation. Now, white can do something on the following turn here. White can play at e1, and that is 2 threats. White can play at e1, d1, c1, and b1 to make 1 threat in the vertical, but playing at e1 makes vertical and horizontal, which means the only 2 moves black would have to stop both of those would be to capture onto c2 or b2. And I think c2 is the most likely. So black has to be very, very careful here to not give up that position, not let white make that threat that is essentially uncontested. Black plays down at c1. I think that's a really smart play here. Knows that that c2 flat is instrumental in a lot of these things, so goes for it. Also, that c2 flat is not potentially guarded by that capstone. Granted, this capstone on b4 cannot be thrown down onto b2 for any reason. That would lead to Black winning with a road, spreading up that b3 stack onto b4 and b5. But that c1 placement, I feel like, was a strong one. Defensive for sure, but necessary, I would definitely say. We take a look at the times on the clock here. Klimace at 14.5 minutes, playing very quickly here. MehrGills down to 12.5, so a 2-minute difference between them. Gonna be tough to come back from. White playing at a2, going for that horizontal tack threat. This may be where we see c2 come, or c1 come up onto c2. I don't expect a c3 minus. But I think c1 to c2 makes sense. But it's a tricky spot for sure. But that would give Black a little bit of room for momentum. Does go for the c3 minus, surprisingly. Surprisingly goes for it. What is the play here? White can't renew immediately, not in the same threat. They can play a3 right and make their attack threat. They can fill in at c3, which is what they do. This may not be looking to capture onto c2. This may just be looking to connect it at d3. It may be looking to capture over onto b3. There's a lot of options for this flat at c3, because capturing down leads to a recapture from c1 assuredly, because it's the only way to stop that Tinway from happening. But c1 comes up, and then what does White do? White recaptures probably with d2. So Black is dropping the wall here at b1, ready to come up onto b2. That's a smart play, trying to cut off those options. However, I like a b2 right here. That goes for the vertical, and it gets the b2 flat away from the wall. A White plays at a1 instead, goes for the tack threat. Black immediately captures over with a6, makes their own horizontal tack threat. White captures up very quickly, again with c4 onto c5, cutting off Black's tack threat. That was a quick few plays there. I imagine Black is going to do something like play up at c6 to cut off that vertical, and also to maybe try and win the capture war on c5, and also maybe to protect that b6 stack that they've got. Black has a number of options, but I do like c6 the best here. They've got the wall on b2. They don't need to worry too much about that horizontal right now. It can become a problem eventually. But at this point, I think Black has the material there to stop anything that can develop on the bottom. So I think they should switch gears and go for their own plan. Somebody's saying there was a Tinue on 13. I'm not sure about that. There might have been. There might have been a Tinue. If there was, it was a little too much, I'd say, in terms of difficulty. Okay, so black does fill in at c4 instead of placing the c6. Interesting. I'm not sure what that does for black. Like, I guess it works towards being able to make that horizontal underneath the capstone again, but I don't think that's where he wanted to go. It also does work for the vertical for black. If he gets anything up at d6, for example, he can make that b3 right move for the connection. But I'm not sure about how good that c4 placement is. White, again, can renew their tack threat just by placing at c6, which is exactly what they do. Black comes over with the d5, captures, makes their own tack threat yet again, but now black will lose this capture war on d5. White has the other piece there at b5, able to capture back if black comes up with c4 onto c5 here. May decide to drop a wall, however. Taking his time, which is a smart thing to do, though he is down about 4 minutes on the clock, which is a risky proposal. Does drop the wall here. Now, white doesn't want to spread this stack down because that gives black's capstone an opportunity to capture onto a stack and get a lot more power. Black's capstone isn't doing a ton right now, and giving him that out to capture onto c4 just makes the capstone more relevant. However, there could be something, yeah. Plays at f2, ignores it, makes the tack threat. So now, black has to make a capture, likely with that wall, b1 plus, to cut things off. And yep, b1 plus happens. Now, white cannot move that capstone down, but they can place at d3 to renew the threat. Placing at d3 would allow for the 2b4 minus for the tack threat, put the pressure on. However, it would also give black's capstone another out, another way to get into this game, make a capture, move around, and stop being so basically ineffective. So white has a few options here. d3 is tempting because of the new threat. I also kind of like taking 4c5 left 2-2. Now, that brings its own challenges. However, I do kind of like that because it sets up for the vertical in a couple ways, and all the stacks are protected, and you don't have to worry about that stack getting taken by the wall. And it also makes things a little more chaotic and fun, and I typically like that. I like the chaos in these games with lots of stack manipulation. Not typically the best moves, but they're a lot of fun for sure. Okay, and he goes for it. Goes for the fun move. All right, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. And this opens up for white to be able to capture down onto a4 and unpin their capstone. And unpinning the capstone is a very handy thing indeed. So black needs to come up with some way to counteract that. And they could do that in a number of ways. They might even decide to go for a self-capture with that wall up at c6. Not sure about that, though. Or they could drop another wall at a6, ready to capture down. I like the wall at a6, to be honest. A wall at a6 works, but then when a5 comes down onto a4, you kind of just have a wall sitting there. And you've got to do the self-capture after that. So might as well do the self-capture now. Yeah, that makes sense. Might as well do the self-capture now. Then you're able to capture down onto b5. Unless white plays at a6, of course. A lot of interesting threads and different paths you can take on this one. A lot of different interesting ones, for sure. I'm seeing... What am I seeing here for black? It's a really tough spot. It's really tough. Because white can make a lot of threats here. d3 specifically is just a really strong flat for white. But if black ignores up top, then they're going to get messed up. So they do drop the extra wall at a6. And I think there may have been Tinues missed here. May have been Tinues missed. That I missed as well. But it's hard to say. Okay, so we just have that wall placed. White hasn't made any moves so far. They could make the d3 placement to go for the horizontal. They could make c3 left to go for the vertical. They have a few other options as well. Still can't move that white capstone up or down, though. That's sort of pinned. I kind of like the a5 minus here. a5 minus does make that vertical threat, forces one of those walls to capture, to self-capture onto b6. And unpins the white capstone. Overall, that 3a5 minus move does a lot for white here, and I can't see any other option competing with it. White does go for the move. Makes it. Makes the play. This is a road threat for white. Being able to take 2b5 plus onto b6. Black in this case has to... I mean, they may take that b2 wall left, which does a couple of things. Yes, it opens up that spot a little bit more for a horizontal threat, but it also cuts off the vertical threat and threatens to capture onto a4. And the a4 capture would be dangerous for sure. Okay, so we did miss a Tinue on 15. Yeah, we missed it on 15. Ooh. White, if they smash, that might be Tinue. It might be Tinue if white smashes here. Down on a b2. That looks really strong. Really strong. What is the out? Smash. Threatening right. Black has to move the c2 to the right in order to get away from it. But white can spread and reach and then keep spreading back and forth. Yeah, I think smashing at b2 is Tinue. But will Klimace see it? That's the question here. Will Klimace see? This doesn't see it. Doesn't smash. No Tinue here. But is able to freely move that capstone down. Make the tack threat, no longer pinned with that capstone positioning. Yeah, that was, I think that was a definite Tinue. A definite Tinue for sure. But still in a commanding position here. Likely going to succeed with this one. Black brings the capstone down. Might have been necessary. But man, it hurts to be giving up that position like that. It hurts. But white has What options does white have here? White has a not so great attack threat opportunity. Smashing still works, to be honest. It's not that bad. I think smashing might... I don't think it's still Tinue, but it's not bad at all. Smashing, I think, works here. You smash down onto B2. If black does something like bring the capstone down, you fill in at D3, or you throw your B5 stack down onto B3 to make that threat. So I kind of do like the smash here. The other option would be to bring C2 to the right as black, and that would end up as Tinue, I'm pretty sure. Taking their time here. Interestingly, now both of them at about the same time, down at 5 minutes. And there was a pretty solid, I think, 4-minute gap at one point between the two players. And now they're both solidly down there. At 5 minutes on the clock. Only at 22, on move 22 here. So that is move 22. They don't get their extra 15 minutes until move 35. So they might need to pick up the pace a little bit if they don't want to be in time trouble. Now, both of these guys have done particularly well in previous tournaments, in intermediates and beginner tournaments. I think that they're going to be strong competitors fairly soon up in the upper brackets. That is a very interesting move at E5. I am not sure I understand the point of that one. Oh, okay. Wants to make the sneaky threat. So there's the sneaky threat. So if you play at E6 next as white, then you can take that A4 stack and throw it all the way to E4, which is, in fact, a sneaky threat. Because it's such a long throw, and because it's leaving behind a ton of blank pieces there. That is not bad. Yeah. Are you going to drop E6 now to make the threat? That's my question. Because that would be a little obvious that you're trying to make the threat up there, and might make it less sneaky. But I do always appreciate a good sneaky threat. Makes the attack threat. I'm sure black will see it though, because the E5 and E6 without that thought in mind, don't make any sense. And MehrGills has to be thinking, why would they possibly make that move? And so I think we're going to be seeing a capture here, likely on either e3 or e5. Because those moves make no sense if there isn't that threat there. So he's got to be able to spot that simply because of that. Sneaky threats are awesome, and they're great, but they're most effective when the move you're making to make the final threat is a defensive one. So if you make a move like a capture or a placement that blocks your opponent from something that they want to do, that also makes your sneaky threat, that's when they're dangerous. That's when you can catch even top players off guard. And so black was not falling for their tricks, drops the wall at b4. Now, interesting choice to drop the wall there instead of using their b5 stack to spread down, capture onto b5, get their own flats back, and place a wall there, and make a positive flat count differential move. I feel like the b6 throwdown was a way stronger move overall. But hey, maybe they kind of panicked when they saw that stack throw. Yeah, I feel like the b6 wall move down would have been significantly better unless I'm missing something. Well, now black's definitely going to spread that stack all the way. Oh, they can't spread the stack down because white can make the capstone throw. Oh, renews the threat, forcing black to make a move. Forces a move to stop the vertical threat. Now white can smash that stack on a4 to save it. Yeah, so white can smash that stack now to keep black from making that huge positive flat count differential move down there at the bottom. Or white could just drop it d3 and make their threat right there, but I don't think that would work too well, considering that a4 spread down would be pretty devastating. So yeah, I expect a smash on a4 on this move for sure. Feels like a definite one. It's a tricky, tricky position. After white smashes, what does black do? I guess they could capture up onto b5, make that threat again. I'm not sure about that, though. I mean, white's doing a great job here, really controlling this game, and I think they've had Tinue twice in this game and missed it, but not stopped them from continuing to control it and really set the pace here. Doesn't make the smash, makes the threat instead. Now, black can't capture onto f4 here. Black must capture down onto E3 or E5. Those are essentially the only moves, unless that that stack up at B6 can be thrown to the right. That is another option. But man, tricky. Tricky. White smashes. Okay, black came over with the capstone. Okay, yeah, that also stops it. Now white smashes. Now what does black do? You've got a very hard capstone here. Do you capture up onto B5 and recover those flats? You've got the capstone ready and prepared to spread downward and affect that vertical line? So you don't really need to worry about that horizontal down there across the bottom, because you've got that sort of ace in the hole with the capstone being able to spread down and affect that. Not sure what F5 does more than just stop white from playing around the capstone, which might just be what they were planning on blocking. And then white recaptures with that stack, comes back over. Now, black can capture up with a wall onto the B4, but it doesn't really do anything. It just gets re-smashed. And they would have to capture down with the wall on B6 for that. They couldn't do that with B2, because B2 going up to that would just create a road opportunity for white. White can also do 3b5 right 1-2, which would be a vertical threat. But black does come down with the b6 wall stack, captures it with the wall. White's gonna smash that stack almost assuredly, because they have to. If they don't smash that stack right now, oh my goodness, they didn't smash the stack. Black's gonna run away with this game. That stack, that singular stack, is so strong. He's just going to move it right down onto B3. He's going to move almost the entire thing to B3. Oh my goodness. What's going on? How do you not smash there? MehrGills is thinking this has to be a trap. Why would he give me control of this giant stack? And so he's taking his time. He's down below a minute on the clock. Does move the stack down. White's got to think fast. Maybe they'll bring the capstone down by itself onto C3, make the smash threat. Maybe they'll play at D5 and make a road threat. Yep, they're making the smash threat. Black comes down. White's able to smash, and they definitely should. Please smash. If you don't smash, that stack is going to run wild and cause you tons and tons of problems. Okay. He smashes it. I'm blown away that that stack survived as long as it did. Black's in a tough spot again. What can black go for here? I guess black could place up at b6 or something. To try and make the threat, but it's just going to get seen through. Okay, places at d4. Not a threat, but very close to a couple threats. Making both the horizontal and the vertical are both threats there. What will white do here? White can maybe place at f3. F3 might be good. Yep, f3. Not a threat currently. But still really strong. I feel like this is close to really good for white. This is... Okay, black made the threat. I feel like there's got to be like a Tinue here, with white spreading that capstone stack to the right, leaving a white behind on c3, with a capstone ending at e3. Right? Doesn't do it though. Captures up and able to spread that capstone to the right all the way to e4 for the road. But I think that there was a Tinue there. Throwing that capstone from b3 all the way to e3, I think there was Tinue there. Black sees the tack threat from the throw and captures to stop it. White can now capture freely up onto b5, get a ton of those flats back. But instead captures right with this huge stack for no apparent reason. Going to be losing that stack war, that capture war on c3. Right? Yeah, because black can win that capture war. And then that huge stack with tons and tons of black pieces is up for black to recover. This is another tack threat for black going vertically. White captures, black captures up with c2. You've gotta at this point. You've got so many black flats under there. Captures up with c2. They both now have the extra time, by the way. They're both above 15 minutes. They were down to below a minute each. Very low on time. That might be why they were missing some of those previous moves. But now black can freely spread upwards for both a vertical and a horizontal threat here. Yeah. Can freely spread upwards, make that threat. This is suddenly very strongly in black's favor. For a while there, it was white's game to lose. They had the win, I feel like, a couple times. I think there might have been 3 full instances of Tinue that they missed. Very, very strongly controlled throughout. The only mistakes, I feel like, in this game were with the big stack of black pieces that White let go. When they had the opportunity to smash and capture and recover and keep that big stack, they just let it go. From here, this is a vertical and horizontal threat. White's going to have to come over with that capstone onto c4 in order to stop both of them. White can feel free to spread that other stack now at c3. I like spreading it left because then you can spread down and make a huge flat count differential move after that. And also go for another threat as well. Like, this is just looking worse and worse for White. That big stack, losing that stack, giving that up was absolutely huge. Like, the only way you would give up that stack is if you were sure you had Tinue. Because we can just see the ramifications here. This stack is dismantling all of White's threats and doing tons and tons of damage to White's future here in this game. I think we've got to see Black spread left here. But he's probably just working out how he wants to spread it out. Like how many pieces he wants to leave at each point. Because this is a brutal position. Brutal. Got plenty of time though, and he's taking it. He's thinking, well, I've got time to think about these moves and how it's gonna play out. So taking 2 to 3 minutes to think about this move and how to work it. No, doesn't spread. Plays the flat instead, saying, all right, let's run these reserves down while I can make this threat. I'm going to go ahead and do so. Now you can't capture that big stack on c3 because I've just made a threat that doesn't involve it. Now we see White capture up onto c5, interrupt that threat. Black can now spread left, make the threat again. White's going to come over, capture that. That's expected. Black can probably play for flats here and not worry about it. Oh, that was a good move. He can make a smash move here and probably go for Tinue. Let's see. He's got the double on b3. Yes. If he leaves behind a black, so if he takes 2 e3 left 1-1 smashes on c3, that leaves behind the connection at e3 and f4. Is it? I think that might work. Capture, smash. I think it works. I think it works as Tinue. I think it does. I think one of the things that White wants to do is capture that big stack. Oh, I think now it's definitely Tinue. Yeah, it wasn't Tinue. It wasn't Tinue before. Now I think it is. If he takes this stack down, spreads it down just a little bit, or even just, I think maybe even just placing at c4 might do it. But if he spreads some of that stack on c5 down onto c4, yeah, 100% Tinue. 100% Tinue there. But I think placing at c4 also does the same trick. Because you can spread your stack, your capstone stack on E3 to smash on C3 for the road. You can also place there at B4. Yeah. He goes for the smash. Yep. This is it. This is the Tinyway. This is it. Well done, sir. So now White's got to stop this from happening. One of the moves to do that is to spread that white capstone stack down onto B3. But then black just plays at C4 and it's over. Because playing at C4 then is the vertical and horizontal threat, and he can't stop it. Man, that was a good play. That was a good play. White may spread that F4 stack left, is what they want to do probably. But because black's going to play at C4 here. Yeah, this is Tinyway, and I think he's spotted the pattern. I think he spotted it because he's falling right into it. Yep. He brings some of those down, and I think that's totally fine. That'll work. Brings those down. This is now a vertical threat and a horizontal threat. Only way to stop those is to capture onto C4, and he can only do that with the F4 stack. And in order to make it all the way there, he has to leave behind a flat at E4. And then that E4 double stack can spread back over left, recapture, and that's Tinyway. Yep. There it is. Now he can spread that whole thing to the right, or he can place at C2 and win. Woo! That was a heck of a game. Klimace basically had that game won. I mean, he had Tinyway 3 times, just missed it. And was just in control the whole time. But just got away from him. I think letting that big black stack go just signed it for him. Just signed it. But really, really close game. That might be the closest back and forth game. I mean, it really wasn't even that back and forth. It was very much white in control and then flipped there at the end to be black in control. But that might be the closest game we've seen in this tournament. Really, really well played to both players. A lot of fun to watch that one. And congratulations to MehrGills. Actually, not just congratulations to MehrGills. This is congratulations to New World, because that puts New World at 7 points and winning the Trans-AtlanTak Tournament for the first time. The last 2 years, the Old World absolutely destroyed. I think collectively those two years we had like 3 points as New World, and here we are winning the second one here. So we got a bunch of new players into this tournament this time, and a lot of different participation. So it's been great. So yeah, fantastic. We're still going to cover the next few games because people still want to play those, of course, and see how they turn up and get some points in there for their New World, Old World. So we're going to still cover those when we can. And yeah, but congratulations to MehrGills for winning this game and to New World for winning the tournament. But we, again, still going to play the next few games out there that are left. I think there's 2 left. And we're still going to cover those. So, but that is all for today. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to check out the description below for all things TAK, especially the TAK Discord server, which is where you can find all sorts of TAK resources like strategy guides and people to play with, whether that be right here on playtak.com or asynchronously through the Discord server itself, playing just 1 move a day if you want to. Lots and lots of great people out there, lots of great resources, so be sure to check that out. And until next time, have a great day and happy tacking.